Good evening, everyone. I am Marcia Marins, and I am a member of the League of Women Voters of Chautauqua County, and we are pleased to present our Meet the Candidates night. I will ask that you please silence your phone so it doesn't interrupt the debate this evening. And if you heard my ring, you would know why I'm asking you to do that. If you're like most people, when election time rolls around, you probably have a million things on your plate, and voting is just another item on that list. But voting is important. You may not know much about the candidates running for office, or you may not even know who's running. And that's okay. That's why we are here tonight. We conduct candidates meetings as a service to you because it gives you a means of forming first-hand judgment of the candidates, and as a service to the candidates because it gives them an opportunity to present their views to audiences of varied political affiliation. We have gathered a list of questions to ask the candidates so you can get to know them better and make an informed decision on Election Day. We have not given the candidates these questions in advance, except the first one. You can ask them about any issues that you care about, and they will respond unscripted, so to speak, so you can see how well they think. We welcome candidates this evening for the mayor of the city of Dunkirk and Dunkirk Common Council members. Unfortunately, the Republican candidates for Common Council declined to participate, and one Democrat had a conflict. A debate is one of the few events left where the candidate doesn't have control, which is why we think they are very important and why we also understand why some candidates don't want to open themselves up to that risk. It is a disservice to voters. Debates contribute to the information about candidates that voters can obtain in a different way than more scripted campaign messages. So as you listen to this debate, think about what issues are important to you and jot down what you'd like to learn from the candidates. And do they answer the questions? Are they specific and sincere and knowledgeable about the issues? Are they answering your priority issues? And then talk about the debates with your family and friends. Did anything sway your decision, and did you learn something new? But most important, vote and get everybody you know out to vote during early voting or on November 7th. It is your best opportunity to make your voice heard and help shape issues that affect all of us. With us this evening are the candidates for Dunkirk Mayor, David Damico and Kate Wdowiasz, and candidates for Common Council members, Bamonto, Natalie Luczkowiak, John Pasquale, Brittany Lombardo. Candidates will have 1 minute to respond to a question they received prior to this meeting and include a brief presentation discussing their qualifications. After the opening statements, candidates will have the ability to question one another, and members of the audience will be urged to ask questions of any candidate or all of the candidates. And if you don't have a card, you can raise your hand and a league member will give you a note card to write your question, and please write legibly. Each reply will be limited to 1 minute. If a question is addressed to a specific candidate, other candidates will be welcome to answer or comment of their own. Candidates will also be able to rebut or challenge one another, limited to 1 minute, and there will be 1 minute for closing statements. The question is, what do you consider to be the most pressing issue facing the city of Dunkirk And what is the first thing you would do to help solve it if elected? And we will start with Kate Wdowiasz.
Thank you for that. We're doing it quick. So I feel I'm best qualified for this position because currently working for the city as a city paralegal, I've been working closely with the administration, and I have made connections with the state and federal representatives that will ensure that funding continues to our community, and we are not forgotten about. I want our residents to have a voice, and I witnessed way too many times where they were not allowed to have a voice. I know the current administration's visions and goals, and I have seen what is working and what needs improvement. I want to focus on the improvement, and I want to continue our city moving forward. The single most pressing issue and important issue in our city is that there are many issues, and there are many issues that need to be addressed. For me, these issues include workforce development, creation of new jobs, new job opportunities, businesses, workforce retention, housing, including senior housing and workforce housing, public safety, and addressing issues with aging infrastructure.
Your minute is up. Is it up?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You have to watch these two.
Oh, sorry.
Okay? You have to keep an eye on that. Sorry about that. Mr. Damico.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to thank all of you for coming tonight, for submitting your questions, and anyone that's participated, also the League of Women Voters for hosting us. What I feel makes me qualified goes back to when I first come out of high school and I joined the volunteer fire department, Anson Hose 3. And throughout the years, that got me in my first taste of politics, moved on, and actually went on to the Board of Education for 11 and a half years, served as its president. The biggest pressing issue that I think that we have right now is fiscal management. We had to take a RAND anticipation note out. I've heard since June from the treasurer that we don't have any money. So the first thing that I would institute is a proven business model that'll put financial responsibility back into the city. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now we will open our meeting to a question and answer format, and maybe their brief presentations brought some questions to your mind. If you are at home and you're watching this on Local Access 1301, you can call 716-679-5227. That's 679-5227. For those in the audience, if you wish to ask a question, again, please write it down on a card, and I will try to get it out on the program. So, again, rebuttals are limited to 1 minute, and our next question is, what is your view on short-term housing in the city, and what about short-term housing in neighborhoods zoned R1? We'll begin with Mr. Damico.
Yes, so I do know over the past number of years there are a number of short-term housing Airbnb type of situations in the city. Most of them I've heard no concern from residents about the short-term rentals. Just recently we've had a few inquiries in a specific area that is zoned, that quite honestly I think we need to treat it as a individual type of situation, and when quite honestly they can't be in that type of zoning, they shouldn't be. But for the people that are in other areas that haven't caused any problems, that we haven't heard anything from, I think we should proceed with it. Thank you.
Ms. Wdowiasz.
So I will agree with my opponent that I am in favor of actually having short-term rentals inside the city. 90% of them we have zero complaints with. There are 1 or 2 that have recently come up on our radar. However, our zoning laws currently allow for those to be in R1 zoned areas as long as they provided they get a special use permit, and that permit can be obtained through the zoning office. So I would say everything is good. I appreciate the fact that people want to come here and they want to stay, and they're looking forward to staying in a more residential neighborhood as opposed to a hotel setting.
Thank you very much. Our next question is, why are you qualified to be the next mayor? And what is your first order of business? That's actually 2 questions, but we'll see if you can get it in one. Ms. Wdowiasz.
So I've been working closely with the administration for the last few years, and I understand the goals and visions for the city that the current administration has in place. And I also see where they need to improve on the way things have been handled in the past. I would like to see more, I don't know how to say that. We need to actually have better communication between all departments, including council, with City Hall, so that we can work cohesively together.
Thank you. Mr. Damico?
Yeah, I'll go back to the qualifications. I think what served me well was my 11 and a half years on the school board. One of the things about the school board, in your first year, you have to take 2 state mandatory trainings, one on governance and one on fiscal responsibility. So I have taken both of those state-sponsored NISBA classes. I've negotiated a number of contracts. Quite honestly, I'll say this, I've also sat in a seat where I've had to raise taxes, and I know the impact of that on our seniors and our people on fixed incomes. I take that very seriously. Quite honestly, I didn't like to do it, but I did what I felt needed to be done, and that's what we had to do at the time. Many of the years I was on the board, we never raised taxes. We stayed within our budget and within our realm. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me just grab those questions. Our next question is, thank you. What do you believe to be the biggest threat to the Dunkirk economy? And we'll begin with Mr. Damico.
To the economy. Well, right now I think we got a really nice thing going. Probably the biggest thing is not having enough people trained to support the amount of jobs that we have in the city currently. I know just in my own employer, it's hard to find qualified workers. I mean, workforce development, I think, is going to be key. We don't have a lot of that currently, so I do think that is probably the biggest threat, would be workforce development. Thank you.
Ms. Damico. I'm sorry. You both have the same starting name. Sorry about that.
I'm going to have to agree with my opponent on this, and I feel that workforce development and retention is one of the biggest threats to our economy. We have several industries locally that are looking to expand, and their need for qualified workers is a real need that we need to address in the very near future. They are willing to bring high-paying jobs to the area, and we need to train those workers.
Thank you very much. Next question. Can you describe the DRI process and whether you favor seeking grants and follow through to make sure the process is followed so that the grants are successful? Mr. Damico.
Okay. I thought I started the last one, but that's okay. So the DRI is a very interesting process. So as a councilman, I had the opportunity to read through the guidebook that Vince DeJoy gave us. Vince, of course, is one of the only people in the state that has won that award twice. So as the process came through, I personally allowed the process to start, get the solicitation in. I've been at the last couple meetings where I was impressed with the amount of 24 projects over $38 million. The concerning part yesterday for me was, a couple of those projects could take most of that DRI money. So I'd like to see this really come out to a bigger bang for our buck moving down the road and having a greater impact on our city. They're all worthwhile projects. We just, unfortunately, we don't have $40 million. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wdowiasz. Sorry about that.
So the GRI process has been a very interesting process to be part of, and that includes being there from the very first meeting, well, from the award right through to the very last meeting last night. I understand what their objectives are, and I also understand what is asked of each applicant and how those grants will be reimbursed. They are reimbursement grants, so each project must provide their own funding for their project and in the end be reimbursed. The state has a very strict set of guidelines, and they do thorough financial backgrounds on each one of the applicants to make sure that they are able to go forth with the projects as they presented them.
Thank you very much. Next question. What effect has Safe Point Lighthouse had on our community? Ms. Wdowiasz.
So Safe Point Lighthouse is actually a very necessary service inside this community. Whether anybody wants to admit it or not, we really do have a drug problem within our city boundaries. However, I know there is misinformation out there that people are going to the facility, getting drugs, and then walking several miles away from that facility and nodding off, which is not at all what that program provides. I believe it's an absolute necessity, especially with the amount of drug bust that we have had recently within the city and overdose deaths.
Thank you. Mr. Damico?
Yeah, I would agree partially with my opponent. I do believe there's absolutely a need for it. I would have to question if that was the right place for it. End of the day, what is the right place? I do think it's probably had a negative effect on some of our retail business in the area. Obviously with Walgreens, now I see another store came in. Hopefully we got some of those things in check. But at the end of the day, I would agree with my opponent that, yes, there's desperately a need for that, and we have to provide it. Hopefully it's a work in progress that we can clean up some of the other problems that were associated with it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Should we share services with Fredonia? Name one in particular. Mr. Damico.
Well, I've been down that road. Should we? Yes. But I think we need to be very cautious. And what I say by that is, and I think the water issue is probably first and foremost. Let me remind everybody, our taxpayers invested $25 million into our water system. There's also a creation of the North County Water District. If they want to come on board, they had an opportunity and they did not. They chose not to. That was their choice. I'm all for providing a service if something happens. I'm willing to help, but I believe down the road, they need to go back to the water district. We have plenty of capacity, but our taxpayers need to be protected. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Wdowiasz.
I'm not exactly sure which services we would share. I know we are talking about potentially becoming a supplier of Fredonia's water, which we would welcome with open arms as that increases our revenue base. We are the sole supplier to the North County Water District, which provides us with well over $1 million annually in revenue. I feel that a partnership with Fredonia is always a good choice. They are our neighbor, and as a neighbor, we should always be willing to assist our neighbors.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Damico, this is directed to you specifically. Please expand on your promise to institute a proven business model to get the city on a stable financial footing. Do you have a business background yourself, or would the city need to hire a consulting firm for this?
Well, I don't have a business background. I actually have a certificate as an HVAC technician. I've been an independent business owner. I also do work for an HVAC company. I've been involved in business plans since I started with them in 2007 and when I started my business in 2013. As far as hiring a consultant for a business plan, I don't believe so. My belief and my experience from a past experience with the board, if you have smart, shrewd business people around you, 1A and 1B, you got to have good financial advice, you got a great legal advice. And if you have those two things around you, you're going to succeed. And that would be where I'd want to go. 1-year plan, 3-year plan, and at least a 5-year plan to start, possibly even a 7-year plan. You adjust as you go along and as conditions change. Thank you.
Thank you. Somebody said they can't hear you too well, so I'm going to try to get this. I don't know if that one's on, but
Okay.
just try to get closer when you answer. This is for Ms. Wdowiasz. Sorry about that. You have stated that you have a plan to curb crime in our city. Please share that with all of us now. Thank you.
I just want to continue to make sure that our police agencies are completely funded and they have all of the necessary equipment and tools to make sure that everything gets, all of the crime gets handled the way it's supposed to be. I mean, there's no real comprehensive plan to it. I don't have a plan to go out and do a mad sweep of the streets and collect every criminal and throw them in jail. My plan is to make sure that the police are fully funded so that they have the tools necessary to perform their jobs.
Can I respond to that?
Absolutely.
I get a minute?
You get a minute.
Thank you. So I want to publicly state, number one of the reasons that my wife and I chose to stay here is because of the tax, of what the services the tax provide. And police and fire, in my opinion, are absolutely essential. I don't care anywhere in the city, if you have a problem, you're going to get a cop or a fireman within 2 to 3 minutes. And I don't have a problem paying for whatever that is. My problem is we've had more busts than we've ever had in the city. And when we make a bust at 6 o'clock in the morning and them people are out that afternoon, the problem is with the way the system's set up. And we need to change the system from our leaders from Albany on down. Thank you.
Thank you. In terms of fiscal management, how do you propose to implement any changes when the city treasurer is a separately elected position and does not answer to the mayor? Mr. Damico.
That's a very good question, because you're correct. That is an elected position, and the mayor really, even as the CEO of the city, has no control over that person. I would hope, in my opinion, what I would try to do is certainly try to work with that person through communication. I'd like to build myself my team of my fiscal people. I would love to be able to work together. That's been my track record, and hopefully, you know, whoever that person is, if it's Mark, I've had a good relationship that I would love to continue that with him. Thank you.
Ms. Wdowiasz.
What was the question again?
The question was about...
the treasurer being elected.
Right.
I would hope at some point in time, while I value the citizens voting for a treasurer, that we might see a light go on and understand that this is probably a position that should be appointed according to civil service credentials. Right now, there are no credentials attached to this. You do not have to have any finance education. You don't have to have any accounting degrees. You don't even have to have experience working with money to hold this position. I would hope that Again, our council and perhaps our citizens would think that this would be better served to the entire community as an appointed position.
Thank you very much. Our next question, what will you do to address the rental properties in the city? Ms. Wdowiasz.
I guess I don't understand that question.
What will you, well, it also said need oversight and regulations, but I don't, it was just an extra comment. What will you do to address rental properties in the city? I'm not sure. You can answer it any way you want.
I know there was talk at one point of potentially getting together a renter's registry, a landlord's registry that would be responsible and be maintained by our building and zoning officers, and they would be responsible for, I believe Fredonia does this, they go in and they inspect the properties to make sure that they're well maintained in between tenants or before the landlord could receive a certificate of occupancy. I do know that any property that is owned by a landlord that lives outside of the city boundaries must have a local maintenance company here to take care of it and an agent that's responsible for any repairs or citations.
Mr. Damico.
So yes, this is a tough question because there's not a lot of teeth to go back currently. I know what we do try to do is our code enforcement people go in. If they write citations, we do try to prosecute. And as my opponent just said, yes, there is a local management company that's supposed to be responsible for that. But unfortunately, it does look as though it's a little hard to enforce. Hopefully, you know, down the road, maybe we can add some teeth into local legislation through a local housing court or some type of commission that we can put a little teeth into that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you support housing in Dunkirk for agricultural workers? Mr. Damico.
Well, I support any housing, quite honestly. At the end of the day, we're all immigrants for the most part. We all came here. Well, I shouldn't say it we, but our forefathers, our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, however, they immigrated here legally. I think there should be fair housing for all, not a specific demographic, and affordable housing. So I don't, the one-sidedness of the question, I think it should be fair across the board for anyone. Should have affordable, fair housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Wdowiasz.
I will agree with that statement. I do believe that we need to have housing. I know there is a hot topic issue right now with immigrant housing, and as many people may know or may not know, the county has already dug their heels in and said, we don't have housing for our own residents, let alone additional immigrants that are coming to, or wanting to come to our community. I would have to agree with that. I'm for all housing, affordable housing, low-income housing, high-end housing, along with workforce housing. We need housing in this community. I can't stress that enough.
Thank you. What is your stance on having a city attorney, part-time or full-time attorney, or hiring legal advice as needed? We'll begin with Ms. Wdowiasz.
This is a relatively easy question for me. I currently work in the legal department, and I am working under a part-time attorney, and I worked under his predecessor. There is an absolute need to have a full-time city attorney. As a paralegal, there is only so much I can do. I cannot review contracts, I cannot make decisions, and the mayor needs legal advice on nearly every piece of paper that comes across their desk. So that end, I would highly stress that we hire a full-time city attorney. And I would not think it was feasible, and I know I brought this to council's attention last year during budget time, that to hire outside counsel on an as-needed basis, even part-time, would triple what we currently pay our city attorney, at a minimum.
Thank you. Mr. Damico?
I would agree partially with that. I think there is probably enough that would require a full-time city attorney. The problem becomes, not only in Dunkirk, but Chautauqua County, is there enough attorneys to be able to attract somebody to come here? And you're asking that single attorney to cover over so many different areas, whether it's municipal law, or it's bonding, or it's harassment cases. There's a lot for that one person to cover. So at times I think you may have to look at going outside, specifically if it is large, big cases that you need expert legal opinion on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question. What will you do to heal the political party rifts that divide this community for mayor and council? Mr. Damico.
I think it starts with communication. I think if the mayor can sit down and talk with council, and quite honestly, across the board through all city staff. And once I think the communication starts, hopefully you get collaboration between council and the unions. And if you can get to that point, the third part's easy. The collaboration comes, but you got to start you got to get the first two. And I think it's part of holding an olive branch out, being consistent, and putting everybody in the same room. I think we all got the same idea of we want the best for our city. And we may not always agree, but what we have to understand is even though we don't agree, we have to figure out a way to move forward. Thank you.
Ms. Wdowiasz.
So I agree with my opponent's stance on there needs to be more communication. However, having been on the inside here for the last few years, I know that communication with the council does not happen unless one of the department heads has to reach out and request something for them. I don't personally know of the last time my opponent has actually called the mayor or the legal department to ask us any questions. I'm not sure about his communications with other departments, but I do believe over the last few years, I have been a liaison between the administration and the council to try to make sure that things move smoothly through the process and answered all of their questions with facts, and that's the most I can provide them, is with the absolute facts.
I'd like to rebut.
Sure.
So I just want to set the record straight. The last time I talked to the legal department would have been Mr. Bobstein at 3:09 p.m. yesterday. Thank you.
Okay. For both candidates, what is your vision for Dunkirk going forward? Will you be able to work with the governor for grant monies? We'll begin with Mr. Damico.
Absolutely, certainly try. I know there's grant monies available every year. Do I have the relationship that the mayor has with the governor? No, I don't know. Quite honestly, I don't know. Will I certainly reach out? Will I make every attempt to be able to try to keep secure funding that what the current administration has brought in? Listen, folks, at the end of the day, we can't argue what was brought in. He's done a heck of a job to bring in the amount of money he has. I don't care who it is, it's going to be a tough act to follow because he's brought that much in. Thank you.
Ms. Wdowiasz.
Again, having worked with the administration, I have had the opportunity to make those connections with the governor and her main people in Albany, and even at the federal level, to establish relationships, working relationships that I am looking forward to continuing moving forward. They have indicated that they want to work with both mayors. They obviously, knowing me and having had to work with me for the last few years, they are very comfortable in my position to maintain a relationship with the governor's office, Empire State Development, and other state agencies, including federal agencies.
Thank you very much. Next question. Would you support hiring a full-time city manager that was hired rather than elected instead of a mayor? Wow, this is a question for mayoral candidates, so I don't know what they're going to say, but we'll try your answer, Mr. Damico.
No, I would not support that. Where I've seen that in other places, I don't think it's worked. Quite honestly, let's look at Fredonia. They tried it for years. It didn't work. In some places, yeah, it might. I don't think, first off, I think the city of Dunkirk is unique. And I don't think the residents and the taxpayers of the city of Dunkirk want to give up their choice for who they're going to pick to be the leader of their community. And that's just my opinion, short and sweet.
Thank you, Ms. Wdowiasz.
I would not support hiring a city manager in place of a mayor. I would be in favor of hiring a city manager to assist the mayor, but definitely not to replace the mayor. My opponent is absolutely correct. We do need to let our citizens have a voice in who is going to represent them.
Thank you. By the way, if you're watching this at home, I forgot to mention repeatedly that you can call 679-5227. It is not too late to call, so we have plenty of time, especially with only 2 candidates. What are your thoughts on renewable energy? We'll begin with Ms. Wdowiasz.
I am in favor of renewable energy. I am not in favor, and I know for almost certain that there will be no windmills that get placed in Lake Erie, as Cleveland currently has a lawsuit pending. I would be in favor of hiring a sustainable partner to assist us with different options for green energy, renewable energy, as well as sustainability, water, stormwater treatment. There are so many areas that we need assistance in.
Thank you. Mr. Damico.
That's a hot button topic today. Renewable energy. Well, I guess we look back and we look at the power station that was here that they were going to repower, and they put the bag house in. They made it one of the cleanest burning coal plants. And they moved on from that, and then our power came from one of the dirtiest plants 2 states away. I don't get how that's green energy. I think it just made it worse. I will say this, for the company I work for, we've made electric boilers for over 30 years. We've made electric furnaces since 2006. Are there alternatives out there? Yes, there is. We have to go back to the math. And if the math doesn't support it, this is what I do every day when I do training classes with people. You got to do the math. What's the fact and what's the fiction? And right now, there's a lot of fiction out there. So, thank you.
Sorry about that, folks. Do you have a concept of what could be done with the Athenex property? Ms. Wdowiasz.
Actually, that's some very exciting news that's on the horizon. Immunity Bio is scheduled to start having equipment delivered this week, and if not this week, definitely next week, and we are looking forward to them ramping up their operations.
I'll make it short and sweet. I have the same thing. Yes, and it's an exciting time. My understanding was within the next week or 2 that equipment will be delivered. Now it comes back to the workforce development. Do we have enough people out there to be able to support them ramping up? So it's going to be some work on all of our parts, but it's another exciting time. So, yeah, I support it also.
Do you see the ecological and economical value in promoting alternative energy project for our region? And what would be your plan to bring jobs in that sector to Dunkirk?
That's me?
Yep.
So the ecological part, Ms. Wdowiasz talked about the windmills. I'm absolutely 100% against windmills in this lake. That is not only our source of drinking water, but about 11 million people in our community. Absolutely, positively not. 2 weeks ago, there was a windmill in England that burned for a week that they couldn't put out. I remember in the 70s as a kid, Lake Erie in Cleveland burnt. It was so polluted. We cannot go back to that time. That is not the place that we want to go and try to spur any type of renewable energy. There's enough other places we can do that. If you want to put them, we put them on the mountaintop, great. Put them on the foothills, great. You want to put solar fields up, I'm fine with that. I'm all for it. But no, absolutely, positively, nothing like that in our lake. It's too important to all of us.
Thank you.
Oops, my bad. My
I
bad.
better wake up.
Sorry about that. Oh, come on.
Now you have to wake up. Ms. Would you control that?
I never got to the timer before. I wasn't sure how to set it off.
Ms. Wdowiasz.
So I see that there could be some economical and environmental values to looking for alternative forms of energy. As my opponent said, I will never be in favor of wind power, and I don't care if you put it on a hill, I'm just not in favor of it. For various reasons, I feel that we should look at developing maybe more solar fields, maybe repurposing some of our underutilized facilities and adding solar panels to that. I believe that there is actually some benefit, not just economically, but also environmentally.
Thank you. Do you have experience working with city budgets or large budgets, Ms. Wdowiasz?
So I've been asked this question in the public recently. No, I do not have any experience working with large city budgets. It is my intention to actually find a fiscal affairs officer that is qualified to do that work for me. I will assist them in any way, shape, and form. I have been through the budget process now twice with the city, and there seems to be a very big disconnect on what people perceive happens and what actually happens. So I want to make sure that our systems are up to date, as transparent as possible, and are as easy to understand as they can be.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So yes, I've worked on a number of budgets, probably at least 11 on my time at the school, and we're getting close to starting our second one here. So anywhere from $26 million to the upper $50 million range. So yes, I do have experience with that. Thank you.
What do you plan to accomplish in your first 30 days, Mr. Damico?
30 days?
Yeah.
First thing I want to do, I'd like to get communication back between staff, between department heads, and I want people to be able to start to talk. And that would be the first thing I would like to accomplish in the first 30 days.
Ms. Wdowiasz.
In the first 30 days, I would absolutely love to hold a department head meeting and tell all of my department heads exactly what is expected from them, not only of myself, but of the community. I would expect that they respect the community and they keep the lines of communication open on all fronts, not only with myself, but again, with our citizens. We do have some issues in communication across the board, and those need to be addressed immediately, and that is one of the first things that I want to handle.
Thank you very much. We will now allow 1 minute for a concluding statement, and we will begin with Mr. Damico.
Thank you. Again, in closing, I want to thank everybody for their participation, the League of Women Voters for hosting this. everybody that's either called in. Moving forward, I believe I'm very well qualified throughout my experience, throughout the years. I'm humble enough to admit that in my younger years, I probably made some mistakes along the way. You're always going to do that. The key is you're going to need to learn from your mistakes. But I do know what works, and I know communication is the key to growing this. And if we can move forward with that, I think there's enough people, whatever side of the aisle. I do believe at the end of the day, we're all here for the same thing. We want what's best for the city, and we just have to figure out a way to work together and figure it out and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Wdowiasz.
So in closing, I just want to say it's been an honor to be invited here, and I thank everybody for coming out and the questions that have been presented. I would just like to say that while my opponent does have some experience, well, over 10 years experience at the school board, the way the city runs is dramatically different. And I don't know that there is a very solid understanding of how that actually works. Having been on the inside and having heard the public perception, I feel that I am the better candidate because I understand how all of this actually functions. I have kept the lines of communication open between council and the administration. And I really think, again, it's not about a party line, it's about picking the person that will be able to do the best job for the citizens.
Thank you very much. This was a lovely debate. You were very well-behaved audience, as were my candidates up here. So thank you very much. We're going to have Common Council come now. Thank you. Good job. Good job. I don't know if the debate tonight's going to be this civilized on TV. We'll see.
Just came in, she said too late.
Yeah, it is. For them?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it.
They're done.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Yep, thank you all
Pardon
again.
me?
I didn't screen them as they handed them to me. I just brought them up and figured you.
Yeah, there was one there.
I figured you were
I know what to do with it.
You've been experienced. This is my first time.
Now you're good.
Thank you.
the candidates night, and we have candidates for Common Council with us tonight. I just want to make an apology that when we were contacting all of the candidates for council, there was one person who we called twice, got an answering machine, and which said leave a message, which we did. And there was no way of knowing that it was not the correct number. So we were not able to contact or connect with Abigail Yerrico, but she did get invited, but there was no way of knowing that she never responded. But of course, the event was in the newspaper, so if she hadn't heard from us, she might have reached out. I'm not quite sure, but our apologies, but that's sometimes the problem with answering machines and telephones. You think you're leaving a message for a person, and if whoever receives that doesn't say, I'm not Abigail Yerrico, then you're in trouble. So our deep apologies for that. I didn't know about that until a few moments ago, so we apologize for that. But with us this evening are candidates for Common Council member, and we have Marty Bamonto, Natalie Luczkowiak, John Pasquale, and Brittany Lombardo. Once again, they will have 1 minute to respond to the question they received prior to this meeting and include a brief presentation discussing their qualifications. And after the opening statements, they will have the ability to question one another, and members of the audience will be urged to ask questions of any candidate or of all the candidates, and each reply will be limited to 1 minute. Candidates will be able to rebut one another, limited to 1 minute. I don't think we'll see too many rebuttals tonight, but we'll see. Basically the question is, and I think this is worded a little differently, but what is the most urgent problem facing the position you're seeking today, and what is the first thing you would do to help solve it if elected? And by drawing, we will begin with Brittany Lombardo.
So the most pressing issue that we're facing is the drug issue. And out of all the wards, my ward, which is the 4th ward, is the one with the biggest issue. And I have some ideas of things that we can do. One of my ideas is to get a box where we can have the needles and everything in, where they can dispose of them themselves, so they're not in the streets laying around, and people don't have to step on them, and kids don't pick them up or don't know what they are. They can dispose of them themselves.
Thank you. Mr. Bamonto.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the league for putting this on for us.
Get really close.
And all the residents that came out tonight, thank you for coming out. There's a lot of big issues that's going on in the city. The biggest issue, I think, in all the 8 years I've been here is we got to maintain two-prong. We got to maintain the jobs that we have in the city with the companies we have. We got a lot of good news. There are some places are expanding, and we heard that tonight. And where I work at ECR International, where I'm the president of the union, we're expanding for the 2nd time, but we have to get more jobs coming in to the city, more industries in. We got to keep working with the state, working with the administration, working with the county. We all got to work together to keep bringing it in to survive.
Thank you. Ms. Luczkowiak?
Yes, thank you, League of Women Voters, and hello to everyone here and tuning in. To let you know, I've been working for you. I wanted to again ascertain that I proactively organized the City of Dunkirk Hero Banner Program and controlled the Seagull issue in our city's business district. And with the help of citizen observations, I was the driving force for new steps at the gazebo in Washington Park, those huge soccer goal nets at the field near Wright Park, and the replacement of bushes on Stagelski. along the fence of Refresco, to name a few. There's more to do. Let's take another journey together for 2 more years. What I see as a #1 issue in First Ward is the need for infrastructure. The bipartisan Biden infrastructure deal is a $17 billion bill. Let's keep in mind 1 million seconds is 12 days and 1 billion is 32 years. There's enough there for us. Let's go after it. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Pasquale.
Yeah, well, I think one of the immediate needs is kind of maybe a two-part thing, but one of the immediate issues facing Dunkirk, I believe, is the need to bring in more businesses, small and large, and to make Dunkirk more attractive to new residents. You know, let's get more people in here. I think that goes hand in hand with continuing the progress that's being made in addressing issues such as abandoned, dilapidated properties. I think that pretty much is something that affects all wards, not really even just a specific ward. These properties, I guess, apparently are owned by absentee landlords that don't seem to be concerned that these properties are dangerous, certainly unsightly, and in some cases being used for illegal activities, which makes them even more dangerous. I plan to work with our city's legal team and law enforcement to hold these property owners accountable. They need to know in no uncertain terms that this is unacceptable and will not be tolerated in Dunkirk. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So now we're going to open our program for questions from the audience. If you are at home, you can call 679-5227, and I'll try to remind you again to call that number, and somebody will answer the phone and write down your question. So our first question is from the audience. Why doesn't the council pass regulations on rental landlords and their property to address the blight throughout the city? We'll begin with Ms. Luczkowiak.
Yeah, we do need to support city landscaping and home upkeep. Clean and neat go a long way here in Dunkirk because we have diverse levels of income. I believe in tougher property and maintenance regulations and that these be carried out faithfully. If we lived in Clarence, there would be many more to abide by, because I know people don't like regulations, but we don't have to strive to be like them, but we can go farther than what we are. For example, any landlord living out of the county needs to contract with a landscaper business in our city. I would like to make that a regulation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would somebody else like to respond to that?
Sure.
Yep, Mr. Bamonto.
Just riding off of what Natalie said, through the years I've been on council, you know how many times I get a call from a resident and we have to go through the code enforcement and we go out in the field, or have them go out in the field, and it's the same thing year after year after year. You know, we just got to stay on them and stay on them, stay on them. We actually need to sit down as a board and with everybody involved, and let's start really cracking down and get some regulation in there with some teeth to go forward and clean this up.
Thank you. Mr. Lombardo.
Miss Lombardo.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Lombardo, sorry.
Sure don't want to drink now?
Yeah. Gets a little crazy up here.
Well, I am not in office yet, so I think Natalie and Marty addressed it as needed.
Thank you. Mr. Pasquale, go for it.
Yeah, no, I would certainly agree with Marty. We've got to put some teeth into the system of going after, again, what I'll call our absentee landlords, people that are neglecting their property. I mean, maybe there's, do they need some assistance with it? I mean, maybe in some cases they're not able to maintain their property, and that's a different story. But, when you see run-down, dilapidated houses and things like that, it's just unacceptable, and we're not going to just say, well, there's nothing you can do, because we're going to do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. What potential do you see for closer sharing opportunities with adjacent communities regarding police, fire, and other services? We'll begin with Brittany Lombardo.
I feel that we should help our neighbors, like with the water at Fredonia. And I feel that the government, I feel that the police and law enforcement and the firefighters, they are all important to our community, and I support and I feel like they should fully be funded.
Thank you. Mr. Bamonto.
Yes, the water is always the hot topic. That's what they've said in the last, the mayor's, when the opponents were up here for the mayor. And yes, we're not want to share services with Fredonia. We want them to buy water from the district. So there was something on the table back in 2015 led by Mayor Rosas, and then George Barola was running for his position in the county, and we wanted to have a shared service police department with the city of Dunkirk and Fredonia up at the old YMCA building. And Fredonia, it got all the way up to when we were getting close, and Fredonia backed out of it. We would have had funding for that with no taxpayers' dollars, and we would have had a shared service between the city of Dunkirk and Fredonia. But going forward, we would like to revisit stuff like that again.
Mr. Pasquale.
You know, I'm not sure at this point about the logistics of shared services like that. I mean, there certainly is a lot of moving parts, but it seems that it kind of exists in a way. I mean, if there's like a really huge fire somewhere, I mean, there's fire departments from all communities responding, you know? So, I mean, I think that in effect is kind of a shared service. As far as, you know, a shared police department, I don't know enough about the pros and cons of that at this point to really make an informed decision. I think it would be, like I said, I think there's a lot of moving parts involved, and we definitely need more information on that. So.
Ms. Luczkowiak.
Yes, it's a great time to talk about water. Our water infiltration plant, luckily Mayor Rosas realized we were blessed with this resource, and he made sure that there were grants that invested millions to update that. And we can help other municipalities. I hear the Fredonia wants to go to the North County Water District. I don't know why. It would be cheaper to go straight to us. We're their neighbors, and so I hope they do consider that. And we are able to provide up to 11 gallons a day, 11 million gallons a day, and we use about 1 million ourselves. And then, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to our next question. It has been mentioned several times this evening that positions will be created for full-time attorney, city manager to assist May. Oh, there are 3 different positions. Full-time attorney, city manager to assist mayor, and environmental advisor. I hope I got that right. Where is the funding from all of this coming from? We'll begin with Mr. Bamonto.
What's the first one again?
Full-time attorney.
Let's tackle that one first.
Okay.
Full-time attorney.
This will take the rest of the hour.
Right. Yeah, right. Full-time attorney, it depends on who the attorney is. Right now, we have an attorney that's a few days a week, 30 hours a week, but he's been an attorney for years and years and years, and he has all the experience, and he can do that. Or do we need a less experienced attorney, but at a full-time? You know, that's really got to come from the mayor and what his goals are and what his platform is going to be, and bring it to the council, and let's talk about it. But there's 2 ways to possibly go. And there's that. Can't even answer
His
the
or
next
her.
Correct.
Was time up? I didn't see that. Oh.
Oh, next question.
Oh, the next,
Part 2.
part 2. Well, let's just, with this, all right, let's just continue. City manager, 30 seconds for that.
City manager, I'm against the city manager, even if it's a city manager that's helping the mayor. Again, the mayor's the mayor, that's who should be running the city. I'm against the city manager altogether. And
And the last one was environmental advisor, 30 seconds.
Are somebody saying we're planning on hiring an environmental? What's the question?
I don't know.
Oh.
It has been mentioned several times that positions will be created, and one, I guess, would be for environmental advisor.
So I've been on 8 years. This is the first time I'm hearing that there's going to be an advisor put on. So if somebody would like to volunteer to be an advisor in the administration, that's fine. Again, that's not our call, that's the mayor's call.
And funding,
And the funding, it will be our call.
Okay. So we can run through everybody at your pleasure. It has been mentioned several times this evening that position will be created for full-time attorney, city manager to assist mayor, environmental advisor. You get 30 seconds to answer each one. Mr. Pasquale.
All right, well, full-time attorney, I think the need exists, and I would be in favor of that. City manager, no, I don't think it's needed. An environmental advisor, no, I don't think it's, I think we can do without it. But I would be in favor of a full-time attorney, and we'll figure out the financing, but I think there's plenty for them to do.
Okay, Ms. Lombardo.
Yes, I agree with Jack. I do feel that we would need a full-time attorney. We need our mayor, we need a mayor. I agree with that, and I also agree with the environmental advisor because that would create more jobs. And we need more jobs and we need people to work.
Thank you. Ms. Luczkowiak?
As far as a full-time attorney, we do need it. There are many times I have called our current city attorney for an answer for questions, and I know he's working more than full-time. And as far as a city planner, I think we're human beings. We're more than just data analysis. We're people, and we really need a mayor with heart and someone that cares. And as far as environmental advisor, well, great. That gives me a chance to talk about the green economy. A green economy could fix our nation's economy of workers learning how to change everything into green energy. Thank you.
Okay, you have to speak louder because
Okay.
your voice is very soft and I'm sitting here and I have a problem. Okay, so
All
I know
right.
you guys must have a problem as well. Next question, what special qualifications, knowledge, training, or other background do you have to be an effective advocate and decision maker for Dunkirk? Mr. Pasquale.
I have many years of management experience. I have 16 years of military experience. I was a sergeant in the National Guard for 16 years, and I have a lot of experience with dealing with different types of personalities and issues that come up. And I'm a good listener, and I think I'm a very good communicator. I mean, I actually listen to people. I think that's huge, and I think that's where it starts, is listening to people and being able to communicate. And as I said, I do have management experience, even in my current job now. I work at Lakeview Shock Correctional Facility, for those of you who don't know. I'm actually a cook there, and I supervise a large group of incarcerated individuals every day in the different kitchen operations. And, it can be challenging to get through to a group like that, but I've been doing it, and I think effectively, and I think that'll carry over into my role here on the council.
Thank you very much. Ms. Luczkowiak.
Yes, I do have an associate's in applied science degree from JCC in business administration, but hey, that's way back in '78. Life experience, I think, at 64 is much more important. I do have management experience where I've won awards, and I've even won a trip to Las Vegas for being the top 100 in the nation regarding my management, where I was managing a bay. And also, my record speaks for itself. I have made the impossible possible, and I've been under Mayor Rosas, who also has made the impossible possible. Thank you.
Ms. Lombardo.
So I was born and raised in Dunkirk, and I graduated with a 4.0 degree in my associates with business administration and management, applied sciences, and I'm currently in my bachelor's degree, and I have 2 more classes left. Also, My grandparents, they had a business here a long time ago, a shoe store on 3rd Street. And I've also been working at UPS for 5 years. I'm a supervisor. So that's why I feel like I'm qualified and I'm hardworking and dedicated.
Thank you. Mr. Bamonto.
Well, not stating the obvious, but I've been on council now, this is my 8th year. I chair the Personnel Department and that committee and the Finance Committee, which oversees the $26 million budget. We haven't raised taxes in the 8 years I've been here. And my union background, I've got 30 years at Dunkirk Radiator, which is now called ECR International. I'm the union president there, which means I've negotiated three contracts. The last 3 were 5-year contracts. And I think going forward, working together with the city, I've been here all my life. I know both opponents who are running for mayor. I know everybody here on this board and the board that we're running against. I know their families. We're in it for the city taxpayers. We're not in it for the Republicans. We're not in it for the Democrats. We're in it for the city. We all live here. We all live here. This is live or die for ourselves. So can't be doing the politics. We got to do what's best for the city. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I got everybody. Next question. What do you perceive to be the greatest threat to Dunkirk's economy? And we will begin with Mr. Pasquale.
Well, I think we need more jobs. I think the threat can be, a higher unemployment rate, but things are looking up. There are jobs being created, and, new businesses are open. Even though we need more businesses coming in, there are ones being created. But I think as far as our economic situation, that could, we have to keep an eye on that and focus on improving that, because that could become a detriment if that's, out of control. So I would say that.
Thank you. Mr. Bamonto.
Yes, there's a fear of losing jobs, and there's a fear out there right now we can't fill some of the positions in the city coming into the factories, and we're having a heck of a time at our place. We had a big expansion at ECR beginning of last December, and we can't keep employees. We have to keep employees in all of our current factories and everything, schools, teachers, everywhere. It's full circle. And that is a big fear of mine, watching this budget and trying to keep our taxes down and steady. That's a big fear. We got a lot of work to do.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry.
I said thank you.
Okay. Ms. Lombardo.
Yes, we do need jobs, but I also feel that we need our youth to be involved. I don't feel like there is a lot of young people involved, and we need to see more of that.
Okay. Ms. Luczkowiak.
Yeah, I believe safety is actually the most important issue in any municipality, because without that, who would want to live here? Fear of crime causes stress and it'll provoke people to relocate. I believe we need a partnership of the police force, and they're amazing what they do already. The local government, along with the police force, agencies, and citizens, and then therefore a plan enacted by a board created by the city. We need to continue with economic growth, housing of all types of income levels, and an aesthetically pleasing city to capitalize on what Mayor Rosas has done and what the DR development that's about to happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next question, do you support getting electric vehicle chargers along Central Avenue? Mr. Bamonto.
Of course I would go for that. What's the cost? I have to have the information. What's it going to cost? If we get it through a grant, we have electric, I think that's great. I think it'll get utilized. We're heading that direction. That'd be awesome to do that, but I would like to know what the cost is and how we're going to maintain it. Thank you.
Ms. Luczkowiak.
Absolutely, it's the wave of the future. And in back of Denny's, there are, I think, 4 or 5 Tesla charger stations, and I take my car to Monroe, and he tells me there's so many people there. And Tesla, what's his name, Mr. Musk, will build them for nothing. So we should reach out to him, because that would bring people to our waterfront. I think it would be a great idea. And they have on their Tesla vehicles, they can tell where the charger stations are. Thank you.
Ms. Lombardo?
Yeah, I feel like it would be a good idea. I'm not sure about the budget. I'm not in yet. But I feel like that would bring in more people, travelers, and they would be able to charge their vehicles and look around the city while their vehicle's charging. We have local things around, local businesses that they can walk to and check out the city. So yes.
Mr. Pasquale?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I think it's something that seems like it's kind of inevitable. I mean, they're gonna be coming along sooner or later. I mean, you do start to see more and more electric vehicles on the road. So I think it's something that's gonna be just kind of common at some point, where it's like, well, where's your chargers, So I can see that happening, and probably be, better to get ahead of it than be behind it. And we can, as far as funding goes, well, we need to know more about that, about how much, what kind of subsidies you can get and what it's going to cost, and all those kind of details. But I think it's something that you're going to see in the future.
Thank you very much. Next question. Have you noticed all the trash along the street on Main Street between 4th and Lakeshore Drive? Is it the city's responsibility? Ms. Lombardo?
I feel like it's the community's responsibility. I feel like all of us as one should take care of our trash all together. I have not noticed it necessarily, but I feel that we can bring together a organization or a group of people, and we can all come together. I know at the end of high school, everybody comes together and picks up trash, and I feel that we can make an organization that we can go around and pick it up and just be self-aware of what we distribute and throw out, and make sure that it's in the trash can and not on the floor.
Mr. Bamonto?
I think Brittany's onto something. We all take, in that area at least, take some responsibility to cleaning it up and policing our own area. I mean, I haven't gotten any calls on it. I mean, that's not my ward, but I haven't gotten any calls on it and haven't really noticed too much down there. But obviously somebody did, so that means I'll be taking a ride by there tomorrow and see what's going on. And that would be a call to the code enforcement. If it's some families or some houses there that's got to do it, then we would have to get after them.
Ms. Luczkowiak?
Yes, I sympathize with other homeowners. I don't know where the trash in my front lawn comes from every day. I mean, like a piece here, a piece there. It's very aggravating indeed. There used to be a fine for that. I don't know if there still is, but all I could say is, I don't know, maybe neighbors need to learn what's happening around, and maybe we need to give more than what's expected, such as organizing a neighborhood cleanup. It's definitely, we need to somehow address that and plan.
Thank you. Mr. Pasquale?
Yeah, I think organizing some, volunteers and groups to address something like that, I think it could be very realistic. I think people in general want to see a clean city, and I think there would be a lot of people that'd be willing to help for, a couple hours on an afternoon or whatever. Let's, get a cleanup thing. That we can even get some of the local food vendors to maybe, hey, we do this, send a pizza our way or something, but just, get people involved. And if it's on private property, I mean, unfortunately, it's going to fall more on the property owner to be responsible for that. But I don't see a reason why we can't get people involved and help with that. I mean, it's a kind of a low-hanging fruit, I think, as far as getting, making some visual improvements.
Thank you. Next question. Is there a particular issue that is unique to the constituents in the ward you represent? And if so, what would you do to solve it? We'll begin with Mr. Pasquale.
Well, from the people I've talked to in my ward, I mean, the subject of road conditions does come up a lot, although I'm seeing a lot of road work being done, and that's great. I mean, it is a process and it takes time, but that is something that I do hear a lot from people in my ward about road conditions, and that's a work in progress. It's something we have to keep on, and I would definitely consult with the Public Works Director and personnel like that to see where we stand and what we need to continue to improve those conditions.
Thank you. Ms. Lombardo.
So I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but the drug issue in my ward is a big thing. And I feel like we need to gather the law enforcement and healthcare experts, and the city government and the community, and we can all come as one and together and solve the problem. And I feel that we need to be more educated, and we need to have people get the right education and counseling that they need, so we don't have our loved ones, dying.
Thank you. Mr. Bamonto.
I get a few calls a year about different stuff. It's mostly DPW stuff, but roads are the major one. And I like to share with the public how your streets get taken care of and how they get paved. Each year we have a wish list. So I put down 10, 12, 14 streets just in the second ward. That goes to the mayor, that goes to the DPW. They sit down and they hash it out, how much money's there, CHIPS money, or we're going to do CHIPS seal, and where that all comes through out of the budget. And at the end of the day, that sits down with the DPW and the mayor where your streets get taken care of. But those are the big complaints. We get potholes and drainage is the streets in at least the ward I live in. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Luczkowiak.
Yes, a part where in the first ward, of course, we have Wright Park, and we want to keep as much green space as possible. And not have, I love everything we have, but it is also a park that needs green space. But also, we need a break wall to extend to Serville Avenue, and I know the city is taking care of that, because we don't know what's to come weather-wise, especially around here. We do need to extend that break wall, and this break wall will absorb wave energy, prevent shoreline erosion, prevents flooding, and establish a larger shoreline. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next question. Dunkirk received $10 million in state funding to revitalize downtown and generate long-term growth. What do you believe will be the 3 most beneficial ways to invest that funding? Ms. Lombardo.
I feel that we should create more businesses, which also creates more jobs, which also brings in tourists and people who are passing by in the city. And I feel that we have to bring more things for kids, because there's not enough things for kids to do. And I feel like that would be beneficial.
Mr. Pasquale.
Yeah, I think definitely improvements and upgrades for our library. I think our library is a huge asset to our community, and I know they had requested some funding from the DRI, and I think that'd be money well spent. Also, improvement, they talked about possibly an amphitheater in Memorial Park, more of an event center. I think that I'm fully supportive of that. I think we need more things like that to do, and that can be a multi-use kind of facility. And then just more improvements to our playgrounds, and as Brittany said, more things for the kids to do. I hear that a lot from people. They need more things for the kids to do, and I fully agree. So I think directing some funding that way, that would be my opinion on that.
Mr. Bamonto.
So $10 million. So we started my vision would be. We started at the pier. First there was a boardwalk, then the boardwalk refurbished. Then we started the pier, took care of the pier. Now it's time, in my vision, is to move up Central Avenue and start getting that refurbished and realize $10 million ain't what $10 million was 20 years ago. So it's only going to go so far. But my vision would be coming up and start refurbishing Central Avenue and getting some businesses and getting some traffic down there. And you realize when you get $10 million, and if it's state funding, there's only so much you can do with their stipulations you can do with that $10 million. So we would have to find out, and with the new council, we would have to find out what we can do to go forward with that. But that's my vision. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Luczkowiak.
Yes, number one, the Workforce Development Program with JCC, taking over the Graph Building. That's going to combine what companies need and their training and people looking for jobs, enhancing our workforce development. Kids have told me they do need something to do in the winter, and so one of those programs would develop one of the places, our old Regents movie house. And then also enhancing the marina with the city, some of the city projects. And then I have to talk about my favorite, Restore New York, turning P&G into like a Broadway market that would be so successful. I think the last year's winter festivities we had there, it was so, vendors were there, it was so crowded. I think that would, thank you.
I have a question, my own question, I guess I can ask as well. Does anybody know the status of the Adams Art Gallery? And tell me where that is. Right now, it's just standing there on the corner, and I'm kind of curious as I go by on what the future for that building is. Do you have any concepts or ideas or any information to share with the public? Mr. Pasquale.
Well, I don't actually know its current status, but I certainly would like to see it revitalized and, you know, offering more. I mean, I think it's a great thing. I honestly, I don't know where it stands right now, but it's certainly something that needs to be brought back and certainly not forgotten about. So I would definitely focus some energy on that.
Ms. Luczkowiak?
Yeah, I talked to Mike Civiletto the other day. He's the president of the board there, and I believe it's privately owned. I think personally it needs to be declared a historical building, therefore we can get grants, you know, along that way in that manner. I think that people are afraid of that because that means they can't expand, and that limits them to what they want to do, but because it needs so much, I think that's the only way we need to go with that building.
Mr. Bamonto?
So I talked to Mr. Civiletto too, and he said some things were going on there. He didn't elaborate, but it's been put on and put in other funding considerations from the DRI.
Do you have any comments on that?
I mean, I'm not sure what's going on with it, but I also, I feel that it could possibly be a place for local artists to put their art in and show, because we have a lot of talent in this city, and I think a lot of it goes unnoticed, so I feel like that would be a place where people can come and see it.
And you guys are going to work on that, right?
Yes, can I?
I mean, we know what it was and where it is, but
Yes.
I don't know where that's going. Anyhow, that was just my own little question. Okay, next question. Do you support renewables like solar, wind, geothermal, fusion? Ms. Luczkowiak.
Absolutely. Just an hour worth of sun would take care of the whole global energy for a year. That is an untapped resource. And again, I would like to, if we could change this nation towards green energy, it would just fix any economic problems that we have if we had a green economy. So I'm into exploring, definitely, all types of energy, maybe even nuclear energy. I know that's but I mean, of course, we would have a lot more safety measures than Russia, but yes, I'm all for clean energy. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bamonto?
I'm all for it also, I just don't want any windmills sitting in the lake.
Louder. I heard you, but I don't know if they did.
Anybody not hear me?
No, we're good.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Lombardo?
I do fully support solar energy, and I don't like the windmills as well, but they do help. So, I mean, they are a source of energy, and I support it.
Mr. Pasquale?
I definitely support solar energy, and it seems like a more clean source of energy. I mean, I'm not in favor of windmills at all. I think it costs more to build them than they put out. I mean, I don't like them. They're ugly and they're dangerous, and I'm not a fan. But I'm all for solar power. I think that's really the way to go. As far as nuclear, I have no idea about nuclear power, but I'm fully in favor of more solar powered renewable energy.
Thank you very much. What are your thoughts of bringing people involved, again, in the Neighborhood Watch Program? And how would you go about getting people involved? We'll begin with Ms. Lombardo.
Well, when I was 2 years old, my mom was the one who started it. So, just gathering people in the community and making sure that we all come together as one, watching everybody's backs, becoming positive and friendly, and, just bringing everybody together. And I'm just grateful that my mom was the one who helped start it, so, yeah.
Mr. Bamonto, you can't beat that one.
I can't. First of all, January 1st, you're hired, Mom,
Yeah.
to spearhead that. What I would do in my ward, I would have a meet and greet on that, and we would select a place, Memorial Park, The Point, or something like that, and then get the people involved and get that going again. That would be pretty cool. Thank you.
Ms. Luczkowiak?
Oh, I'm definitely for that. That would be wonderful. I think it would make people more aware and work together and address, the issues of crime. I believe we can get there.
Okay. How likely do you think that JCC will be built downtown? Mr. Pasquale?
Yeah, I think it's very likely. I mean, they already have a facility, in the area there already, and I don't see any reason why it can't happen. I think it's definitely a good thing. Anytime you can add another educational facility to our areas can only be a good thing. But I don't have the exact figures, but I certainly think it's something that's possible and could be done.
Thank you. Ms. Luczkowiak?
Yes, there's talks already regarding that, and JCC wants to expand. They want to have a bachelor's program, and because of that, they will need to. And I believe that will happen. Thank you.
Mr. Bamonto?
So this has been in talks probably at least 4 to 5 years, and I'm pretty confident this is going to happen. I don't know the timeline on that, but again, that would coincide with the vision I had with that $10 million coming up Central Avenue. Then there will be spin-off businesses opening, maybe some coffee shops, this kind of shop, something else, who knows? But it'll be starting to revitalize downtown, and that's I would love to see, and I can't wait for that to happen.
Ms. Lombardo?
I feel that it would be a good idea. It would be more accessible for people who walk in case they don't have access to transportation, and it also fills a vacant lot. It would bring more people in, and I feel like it would be a good idea. I support it.
Thank you. What will you do to attract and repurpose National Grid site. I'm not sure I understand.
Yeah.
Attract what to repurpose?
Correct to repurpose the facility, I mean, in the ground.
Mr. Bamonto, go for it.
I understand the question.
Okay.
Once again, we don't own it. So first thing, for it to be repurposed, the owners of the building, the facility has to let anybody sell it. They'd have to sell it. They could sit on that for, as long as we live, next 50, 60 years and do nothing. So that's like, Walgreens wants to move out, we can't do anything about that. So the day comes when they want to sell, then we can get involved and the state can get involved. But as of right now, we can't do anything.
Ms. Luczkowiak, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, I mean, they are a multinational trillion-dollar company. It's hard to, they kind of tell us what they want to do. But, but they have helped other municipalities. I know one in California where they have torn down the whole building. So, but I do want to give everyone hope. There is a Inflation Reduction Act, $1 trillion bill that just passed, and I believe there's a lot of environmental grants we could get from there, and possibly we could help ourselves through that.
Ms. Lombardo?
To my understanding, we don't own it, and I'm not sure about the budget or of us being able to gain control of it, but if elected, I can get a better understanding, and then I can get back to you about it.
Mr. Pasquale?
I think if we can get the owners of the facility on board with repurposing it, because, I mean, there obviously would be some extensive cleanup involved, but, I mean, the location, you can't ask for a better location for a different type of operation, and if it's not going to be a power plant again or something like that, I mean, I don't know that we can afford to buy it and clean it up. I mean, that's not realistic, but if we could get whatever corporation owns it on board with some sort of repurposing for that area, I think that would be something to look at.
Thank you very much. We're going to have 1 minute for concluding statements at this point, and we'll begin with Ms. Lombardo.
So, thank you everyone for your questions and for your time, and thank you the League of Women Voters for putting on this debate. I wish my opponent was here to answer some questions so I can hear her side of things, but that's okay. I'm learning things each and every day, and I would like to be a part of the positive change of Dunkirk. And as my colleague, Jack Pasquale, said to me one day, we are not just Democrats, we are people with ideas. So I would appreciate your support, and I encourage you all to go out and vote. Thank you.
Mr. Bamonto.
Yes, a couple things I just wanted to mention before we go. What's happened in the Second Ward since I've been around? We put in fixed the Lucas Avenue Bridge, which didn't have any fire protection down on Lucas Avenue, not Lucas Avenue, I think it is, that bridge put in. And they did have no fire protection for years, and we finally got that done. That was one of the first things we did when we got on. Of course, right, the Point, we put in the new pavilions, we got funding for that. And Wright Park, we put in the splash pad, and of course, everybody knows about the pier. And through the COVID time, we didn't raise taxes even through the COVID time, so we did a lot in those 8 years that I've been there. And I would appreciate everybody get out on election day. I appreciate everybody coming tonight and listening. Your free time is valuable. I know how that is, and I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Ms. Luczkowiak.
Yes, thank you, citizens of Dunkirk, for the pleasure of being your councilwoman these past 2 years. It's been a growing experience for all of us, a pleasure and a challenge. I look forward to serving another 2 years with your support and vote. There is much more to do. Kindly take another journey with me these next 2 years. Lastly, please ignore Don Williams, my opponent's signs of false advertising. I am the candidate to re-elect.
Thank you. Mr. Pasquale.
Yeah, well, those of us that live here already know what a great community Dunkirk is. I mean, despite the challenges we face, there's a strong sense of pride in Dunkirk. I mean, there absolutely is. I see it all the time when I'm walking or driving through the neighborhoods. The way people take care of their homes, their yards, their gardens, the pride shows. I mean, sure, there's an area here and there that, you know, that needs some help, but overall, I think there's a lot of pride in Dunkirk. And I'm very proud to call Dunkirk home. I'm honored to be a part of the team that we've assembled here, and I believe that we're going to continue to build on Dunkirk's progress through honest and open communication, and the communication is key. And by listening to our citizens and their ideas and interests, and taking what I'd like to call a common sense approach to dealing with the challenges we face and making the most of the opportunities that we have. We're going to do this with your help and by working together. Again, I said working together. So that's, you know, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters of Chautauqua County for having us here tonight.
Thank you.
So, yes, thank you.
So voting is an essential step in the process of democracy. If your vote was taken away from you, you wouldn't really like it too much. So exercise that right that you have and select your choice for this elective office so we can reaffirm democracy in Dunkirk, Chautauqua County, New York State, and the USA. I want to thank the candidates who showed up today, and again, apologies to the candidate that we had a miscommunication with. I want to especially point out some league members that make this happen. It's not an easy job to produce this. Pat Curell and Tina Rauza, Mary Croxton and Jack Croxton, timekeepers, local access, Gabriel Taylor in the back, and this program in its entirety will be on channel 1301 at 7 p.m. every day till Election Day, folks, so you can watch all the gaffes and laughs that we had tonight. Early voting is 10 days before the election. It starts October 28th and goes through November 5th. Monday, we take off to get the machines to their polling places. The hours are varied. Please go to the Board of Elections website to find out the hours because we're there all different hours during that 9 days. You can vote anywhere of these 4 places: Board of Elections, Jackson Center, Chautauqua Mall. You can go shopping and vote. At the fairgrounds, where I think it used to be a skating rink. I will be there every day running the show. And if you vote early voting, I don't want to see you November 7th. You have already voted. The polls will be open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Thank you very much for coming tonight. Thank you, candidates. Well done, guys.
Oh, thank you very much.
Well done. You did well.